Hello, my name is Jeanne Cruz, and I'm here today to interview a very interesting man named Bob Lawson. I read Bob's little biography here ahead of time, and he's pretty fascinating to talk to, and you folks are going to find out about it after you listen to him for a while. We do appreciate the cooperation and support of the Life Center here in Toledo, Cumberland County. They have provided us the facility to do this interview and the surroundings, so we don't constantly have to set up our screens and cameras and mics all the time. So this is a nice place to do our interview. We are hoping to preserve all of the memories that people have, and the name of our series that we're going to be doing is called People's, Places, and Things of Cumberland County. And we're grateful to have a willing participant come and share his life with us. We also want to offer a special thank you to the Life Center Executive Director, Sandy Bowman, for serving as a fellow interviewer and for assisting our guest today in typing up lots of pages of stuff. So we have a lot of memories to share today with Bob. So how are you doing today, Bob?
Well, I feel fine. I'm just getting old.
Well, how old are you?
The 25th September, I'll be 91.
You look mighty fine for 91. You look really great.
Well, my looks is the same age as the rest of me. I can't understand the difference.
But you've been a widower for a while, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My first wife died in 93. I got married again. We were married 4 years. And that was a mistake. She's 18 years younger than me. I don't recommend that much age difference in people.
You don't?
They live in a different generation, and it just didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got a divorce and things, and walked down the street, and she was apologizing for some of the things she did. I said, well, now, I still love you. What I hate is the things you've done, but I love you. And I said, that'll always go on. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way I felt.
Okay.
I mean, I can hate what somebody does and still love the person.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they say about sin, you know. You can hate the sin, but you're not supposed to hate the sinner, because God doesn't want us to. So, yeah.
And I hardly ever meet a stranger. If they're a stranger very long, they get up and leave, because they won't put up with my gab.
Are you noted for this? Well known for your gab?
Well, it seems like I am, because I've had people tell me, when we get there, you keep your mouth shut. But I don't.
Well, you know, I think people are more comfortable if you're not just sitting there silently, because people think you're judging all the time when you're just silent. So.
Well, I can do that while I'm talking.
You can judge while you're talking too. Well, let's get down to this here.
Okay.
This is just kind of interesting things here. What would you like to talk about first? I know you have children, and only one of them lives in Illinois, so you want to tell me your children's names and where they are?
Yeah, the oldest one is named Richard. He lives in the state of Kansas. And he got out there, he was working building these silo things that goes up for grain bins. And where they went, his wife they had a little trailer hooked behind an old 3/4 ton truck, but they'd go wherever they went, all the Midwest and then the South, putting up these silos, and she would get a job at a restaurant, washing dishes, waiting tables, whatever, and Richard worked there, and then he was working, the ones in Coal Station, when they built them, he was working there, and it was freezing, but it was, if you ever drive by there, you notice them silos don't have different seams on them where they pour and then let it then pour more. They're constant all the way up, and they were moving the forms constantly, and they had to stay there. Once they started pouring, they couldn't quit, irregardless of what the weather was. And so a lot of the guys just walked off the job, said they didn't have to work that way, and Richard said the foreman come over and thanked him for working there. He said, well, I thought if I'd show you I wasn't afraid of it. that I could go with you when you move. He said, you got a job. And so they go all over. But then they ended up in Kansas, and the farm program that they had then for some kind of storage, it quit, and they laid off a crew, and his was one of them. So his wife found, she worked in a restaurant, when, you know, how the farmers sit around the restaurant to talk. She kept asking, does anybody know what that needs a farmhand? Well, yeah, he got a job working for a farmer, and but then that guy, he ended up being an alcoholic, and the only farm he had left was his mom's, so he didn't need any help anymore. So Richard went and found him a job with another, but he ended up working for a big feedlot out there. And he said at one time, they had 18 to 20,000 head of cattle in one feedlot.
Goodness, that's just hard to visualize.
Yeah, I've got a picture. I had to take 2 pictures, but take a picture and then real slow move it around my camera and then take another picture. They don't quite match up, but
close.
Good picture of it. And he was out there for a lot of years till he got, he's 70 now, or will be in November. And he said if he did get too old, I'll be run over by them cattle when he's trying to load them. And so he's out there and he's retired now in the state of Kansas, and he owns his own place and everything, so that's his home. And the second boy, Paul, he was in the Navy 23 years, and when he retired, he was an inspector when they was making the, he went to work, whoever it was making them things that shot to the astronauts up and they come back and landed in the ocean. And his boss told him one day, he said, Paul, he said, they're going to make one that's going to land and they can use over and over. He said, you need to go find you another job instead of getting laid off. He said, I'll give you the best recommendation can be given. And so he ended up, after he'd done that a while, ended up driving a truck, and him and his wife were partners, you know, driving as a team.
As a team.
Yeah. And he was down in the southeast corner or something of Colorado, and they lived in Colorado, and he had a stroke.
Oh.
And by the time they could get to him and get him to a hospital, why, they couldn't do much for him. It paralyzed him, and he just kept getting worse and worse, and finally, probably 3 years ago or so, they come and told me that he died. I told him one time, I said, you know, he said, many years you spent in the Navy, he worked 23 years in the Navy, working on airplanes. I said, many years you spent, looks like them, or Social Security or something like that could find you an electric chair to ride in. He said, well, Dad, they said it wasn't going to be worthwhile. I should have known, but I guess I didn't want to know.
Well, it's a very difficult thing, and I can only imagine what it's like for a parent to lose a child, because that's all out of sync.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to outlive our kids, are we?
No. But then we had, now the next one we had with Diana, all my kids were boys except for the 2 girls.
Well, that makes sense, Bob. Perfect sense, Bob.
And Diana was the oldest one, and she lives in Dayton, Ohio. And military, it seems like, separated them somehow or another, all my kids. And then she lives out there, and her and her husband both retired over in the Dayton area. And then we had Roy Dale, and he only weighed less than 3 pounds when he was born, and he died when he was 8 months old. And so he never grew up. And then we got David, and he's a giant in the family, and he lives down in Mississippi, and he works on airplanes. And where he works at right now is in Florida, but he drives back and forth from Meridian, Mississippi down to Florida. And then we got my baby daughter, Melinda, and she lives over at Casey, and she's the only one in the state. And But, you know, I like to have them closer, but sometimes maybe I don't need them all out close.
Well, sometimes, but it is always a good feeling to have your kids around.
Yeah.
It just is. It's a
Yeah.
comforting feeling, yeah. So Melinda, you see her the most then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's a good girl, and she married David Wickheiser. Anybody around Great up in places, they know David Wickheiser. He was a painter for a while, sign painter.
I know David Wickheiser.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah, he was one of the best sign painters there was.
That's right.
And anyway, that's where they lived, and they come and see me just every little bit and check on me. All my kids call me up and check on me.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you something. Now, let's go back to the very beginning, now that we know how many kids you had and some of their experiences. Tell me a little bit about where you were born, your parents and grandparents. I found this to be an interesting story.
Oh,
Here.
okay. Well, I can't tell you where I lived before I was born, but my mom and dad lived in Moultrie County, East Nelson Township, almost straight west of Cook's Mill. You cross the county line from Coles County into Moultrie County.
I see that
And-
on
and
here.
they were
yeah.
farming.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And what were their names?
Mom and dad.
Yeah. Well, that made it easy to remember.
Yeah,
didn't
maybe
it?
Yeah. Ollie Lawson was the father. Edith Klein, she was mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I've got the family history of mom here. Goes clear back to Israel Hunt. He was born in Germany and he fought in the Revolutionary War. And I've got him clear on through, clear on down through where got my name in there. And a lot of people around, well, Bishop, Joseph Bishop was Ben Mom's, let's see, well, folks, he would have been my mom's great grandpa or something like that. And anyway, they were related. Got a lot of, I'm sure got a lot of relations in Cumberland County if I didn't know how to hunt them up.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them never heard. But
Well, that's why we, the Historical Society offers tours of the cemeteries. You can hunt
Yeah.
up a lot of them there. There's a lot of people there that we're
well,
all
let's
related
see.
to.
Mom's granddad settled over there on by Bears Creek, I think it was. A little town. Anyway, he owned the land where the Long Point Cemetery is over there. But he gave him the land for the cemetery one year, and a couple of years later, so he gave him the land to build a church. And he was a very prominent man over there.
Mm-hmm. Sounds
But-
like he was a very generous man.
Well, I never knew him. I never knew but my one grandpa. Never knew any of my grandmothers. I just, whatever they told me about him, I thought, well, that's good.
Well, I noticed in here your grandpa was involved in raising you in your life too. You said there was a bachelor there. Your grandpa was one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My grandma Lawson, she died in 23, and Dad and Mom didn't get married until November 27. But Granddad, and he had my dad and Dad's brother, they were farmers and lived there together. And
This was up in Lerna,
no, this was over in Moultrie County.
still in Moultrie County.
Yeah, Moultrie
Okay,
County.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And lived there for a few years. And the same guy that, he was an attorney, owned a lot of different farms. He moved Dad around on them. And I think he'd sell one, so we moved Dad. But then we lived there until I was, well, I must have been about 4 years old. We moved from there down on we called it the J Creek Road, but it was the road that goes from the curve over there north of Allenville. Get on that road and it takes you up, clear right up to well, what's the name of the town of Cowden? Not Cowden, Cadwell.
Okay.
Cadwell, takes you
Okay,
straight
I
up
know
to
what
Cadwell.
Cadwell
Well, we lived on that,
Oh,
yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, I know, and I started school there in 1934, and I just went half a year and then we moved again. But,
When did you come to Cumberland County? How old were you when you ended up in Cumberland County?
well, that was 1940.
1940, okay.
Dad bought 80 acres right next to his great uncle's 120 acres. And Dad had been farming close to 400 acres of black ground, rented ground in Moultrie County. But then he bought 80 acres right next to the poorest land, I think, the poorest farm probably in Coles County, some people said. But we lived down over there north of Lona, 4 Mile, and then we were supposed to have electricity, but we didn't get it. The war come on, but it was just a half mile away. And we didn't get electricity in there until, I think it was 47.
I was fascinated that you
Yeah.
guys waited that long and it was so close. And
Yeah,
you had to
well-
wait that long to get it.
Yeah, well, they just couldn't get the material instead
Sure,
of, until the stuff to get with it.
Sure.
And we was, when they started up again it was REA Electric, yeah.
Yeah.
And you notice in there where they had to dig the post holes by hand, that would be a
That would
pretty
have been
deep
a
post hole.
big job, big job, big
Yeah, big job, and that's when they strung the wires and clumb a pole and they'd hand it up to the guy up there on top, all by hand.
Scary sounding,
It was
isn't
gonna
it?
take a while.
Yeah, it'd take a little bit to get that
Yeah.
done. But it must have been a little frustrating for your family to know that it's just up the road there, you know?
Oh, yeah, it was,
And then there they had to stop and the war broke out. And
yeah.
you'll have to tell us a little bit about this war. And I'm fascinated too about your meeting your wife at the skating rink. That's a kind of a romantic story there about meeting your wife up there and all of the good times you had then. But
Yeah. That, well, I drove that old Model A Ford Dad bought me when I was, back then we could get a driver's license at 15. And so when I was 16 years old, we bought that old 1934, put the thing in my name, and we brought it home. But you could, they had some real good paint you could get at the auto stores that you could put on with a brush, and we painted that old Ford Robin Egg Blue.
I couldn't get over that. That was fascinating.
Yeah, Robin Egg Blue with black figures, and they had wire wheels. We painted them with hand red wheels, and
This had to be very noticeable going down the road, you know.
we found that
This had to be very noticeable.
out. Yeah. And we had a lot of fun in it and things. And I don't talk too much. I did write some stories about it, but I didn't tell too much because I said I didn't want somebody that, because all my friends, they're all gone now, but I didn't want some kid to say, oh, Mom and Dad surely didn't do that.
Well, tell a little bit. I thought it was interesting because we're all familiar with the fact that during World War II there was rationing and you had rationing cards.
Yeah.
I was fascinated with the different, I never realized the different degrees.
Oh, yeah. Anybody had a car could get an A sticker, a little sticker, about the size of that there picture there.
Okay.
And it'd have an A on it. You stick that in your windshield. And then if it was a B, you could get more guys. A sticker, I think it was 4 gallon. The B sticker, you'd get 8 gallon a week. And then if you was working in town at a factory or something, a defense factory, or had a job something on the railroad, something like that, it was the C card. And it was for doctors, lawyers, people that worked in town. And they were kind of particular about when they just out rambling around. They kind of frowned on that. And but with the A and B card, you could just drive it wherever you didn't want to get caught.
Right. Now what about the farmers? Which one did they?
Farmers had, it was an R stamp they got.
Right.
And I don't remember how much, depending on how many acres they farmed and stuff, I guess, how much they got. And I know we had Oh, I used to ride with Dad in his old truck. We'd go to town, and he'd take 3 barrels, and we'd go to the bulk plant, Kaiser Oil Company in Mattoon. He'd get them 3 barrels and bring them home, and we'd have to learn how you tip them over on the side and roll them out of that truck, and when they land, you had to be sure you tipped it clear over so it wouldn't bust the bottom out, then lift them up. And then we had a pitcher pump we put in there, and then pump it in a 5-gallon bucket and pour it in the tractor. And sometimes we'd pump some out and put it in a bottle of Ford. And that's when Dad, we got low on gas.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Well, you had to be resourceful, I guess, didn't you?
Yeah.
If you were going to be able to go out and run around at all, huh? Yeah, that's pretty interesting story there. Well, I was fascinated that in those cars that sometimes you had 11 people.
Well,
A little bit crowded.
yeah, people asked me in years, they'd said, how many people could you haul in that old Model A? I said, depending on how well acquainted you are. I said, it was made to haul 5, 3 in the back and 2 in the front. But if you were well acquainted, I said, you could get maybe 2 couples in the back seat, and I have had a couple plus me driving in the front seat. That's about enough. But we've had, the most we ever had in it was, and there was no sense in this, the block, straight across from the block was the restaurant. And dinner time from the high school, we'd go to the restaurant to eat. Oh, we had a car, we had to drive clear around the block, come back, it's like parked just about walk throwing distance to the schoolhouse.
Just so you could drive the car?
Well,
Yeah.
oh, all the kids had cars, but then when it's coming noon time for schools to take up, why they'd janitor would ring the school bell, and that meant you got about 5 minutes to get here. So we'd start in, and they just kept piling in and piling in. I had 6 in the back, 5 in front, and I was driving. That meant that 4 people sitting there beside me. Then there was another fellow he wanted to ride, so I got up and sat on the back of the seat, and he crawled in under me, and I hung my feet over his shoulders, and he drove that thing right around the corner with the springs was so far down on that old Ford. We got to think about that. You get 12 people in there, and they weigh about 140 pounds apiece. That's a pretty good load in that old car. And we'd go around that corner, and the tires squirt on the corner, you couldn't help it. But
Sure.
that was the most I ever had in it.
Well,
But then you can read in there where I skipped school, and that was a lot of fun. We'd skip school a lot, and then we'd have to tell that excuse. But that was it learning. I mean, mine wasn't a big school. Sometimes the whole school would be 40 kids go there. Yeah.
and so you went to school in Lerna. That's
Yeah, I
where
went to school.
You graduated high school in Lerna.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I loved your comment here about did you go to college and get a further degree? What kind of degree?
Okay. When I see these things, one other thing about your college, it says, and it'll say college or some college. I put down some college because when Cumberland Machine closed, where I worked, they sent us to the college, and they was going to teach us about a computer and how to do when you got to apply for a job, and they'd say, do you know anything about a computer? Yes, this button turns it on, this button turns it off, and
That's it.
this kind of stuff.
Very
But
basic.
you would tell them, but this is not the program, not just like the one I'm used to, so they'd have to show you, and things like that, But, yeah, and I never did use it for that. But then I decided I was going to get rich, and I was going to start real estate. Well, I had to go to school for that, then had to go to the college to get the classes. And so I had my real estate salesperson's license, but I wanted a broker's license, so I got that. I think in 2 years I made $75.
Well, you didn't exactly founder on that thing,
No.
did you? What was your favorite job you had after you got out?
Favorite job I had, the only thing in my life I ever done, I knew what I was really talking about was when I went to work for Harry D. Meyer in 54 at the feed store. I started in there working, I got $45 a week, working from 7 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening. Unless we're putting up a grain bin, then we put up the grain bin until 5 o'clock in the evening, and then we had to drive back to Mattoon, then we get, but we didn't get anything after 5 o'clock.
No, you're not paid to be on the road.
No, I wasn't getting paid anything being on the road.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
you enjoyed that work.
Well, I got to where I enjoyed the feed business. And me and the salesman, this was back in the day when almost every house you went down there, of course, they weren't as thick as they are now. The house, well, they might have been as thick, but they weren't as many.
Yeah.
And about every place you stopped, they had, most everybody had some chickens. Not a lot of them had a cow. At least they had a dog, and we sold dog food. But we just go around the salesman and talk to them. But I was good. I knew, I studied the feed, I knowed what I was doing, and I could, if I done the weighing, I couldn't depend. I finally worked my way up to manager. The manager quit, and Harry Niemeyer asked me, I thought I could manage it, and I said, Harry, if I'm not going to be the manager, I got to break in my own boss. He said, that's just the way I. So I got the manager's job, and but yeah, that was when I got out of the feed business. They were people that had feed stores that wanted me to come to work for them. And I was well known around that, but I was good. I won't back down from that. But if I had done the weighing, I could make as good a bag of feed as you could buy on anybody. I don't care who you bought it from, it was as good as theirs was. But you couldn't depend on the help because they'd pour some in on the scale, and when the beam went up, that was enough. But that's too much. You've got to have that beam where it'll just go like that, you know, and do it right. But I could sell feed. They knowed if I told them that was what they needed, they was going to make some money. And at the meetings, I'd always tell them, we can't make any money unless you do.
Well,
and so
that's the truth. That's a good philosophy, isn't it?
And I knew a lot about the animal health stuff. And, well, I used to, when there was pig worming. That's kind of a touchy subject to some people. But they'd come in and want to sell it. And I'd say, can you take the cap off that jug? I'd put my finger down in it, go like that. I said, no, I don't want that one. We won't buy that one. I said, we won't buy that one because the pig won't drink the medicine. We put it in, mix it with water. I said, no, I don't like the taste of it. But if they come in and they were pretty good, that's the one, because if it tastes good to me, surely doubt it wasn't going to make the water too bad for the pigs.
And you never had worms, did you? You never had worms, did you?
I've never seen any.
Well, that was a really good way to go there, Bob.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know, while you were selling this feed, all these different kinds of feeds, was this back when buying chicken feed, you had the nice materials and we all got our dresses made out of them?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I first started work there, was just starting to get some stuff in 50-pound bags. And we'd have a lot of the women my age would remember, or older than me, but they used to, when they buy chicken feed, it was pretty in print. And so we'd have it stacked up. When I could throw a 100-pound bag of feed over my head, but we'd have it stacked up. Yeah, I don't look like it now, but I could. and we'd have it stacked up there, and some lady said, oh, would it be too much trouble if I could have this one right here? You know, well, yes, ma'am, if that's what you want. So the two of us, we'd tear that stack all down, get this one, then when they left, we'd stack it all back up again. Well, I'm glad when they got out of that.
I want to tell you something, though. Do you know, as a little girl, how we looked forward to those chicken feed dresses?
Oh,
I couldn't. Some of it was just really exciting, and Grandma would get it whipped up and bring it down to
Oh,
the
yeah.
house, and it was pretty exciting to get that.
Yeah.
Especially when it was a pattern you didn't already have, you
Yeah.
know, so you could enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, another thing about feed business too, you're talking about that hornworm. We sold terramycin tablets,
Yeah.
and well, they were terramycin cascar tablets, and they were good for headaches and good back. And so I got in there, and I was using them for cold tablets and stuff, and stuff. Buy me something to take one. And some of the farmers found out I was, so they come in and started, I want some cold tablets. Well, I can't sell it to you for that, but but then a year or so later, they changed a little bit, and the salesman said, you better quit that. He said, them was for the cat scarred, and he said, they got a medication there, bound you up like you never saw before.
What made you decide you were just going to start trying things, tasting things and trying them? Weren't you worried about it?
No.
No.
And that was really about, I'm going to say this, maybe the third or fourth year that they used 2,4-D. And we had us a big rack sitting out there made out of railroad ties and 4x4 boards and 2x4 plank, bridge plank. We had a barrel of 2,4-D, a barrel of 2,4-5-T, a barrel of turpentine, a barrel of linseed oil, a barrel of paint thinner, and we had them all lined up there, and fly spray. And people come in with a jar, and we'd go run some in. Then we'd just take and put a piece of tape on there. It wasn't masking tape, it was sticky on one side, and wet it and stick it on there. 2 tablespoons per gallon or whatever it takes, and that's all you had to do. Till finally the law says, well, you got to have the full directions on there a few years later. But they said that stuff won't hurt you. Then, probably it was getting pretty well up into the 50s, 60s, long in there. And the salesman come in, he seen some little white spots on my hand, just little spots. He said, you know what caused all them, Bob? And I said, no. He said, the chemicals he was in. I said, but they said they wouldn't hurt you. He said, yeah, but now they got a way of testing it, a lot more parts in there per billion or so, you know. He said, and now you'll be sure about it, you never get rid of it.
Well, and as that
Well,
happened,
we had chlordane, a barrel of chlordane.
oh, we've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. So you did, but you actually didn't feel any effects of it, did you?
Well, if it did, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
It might have been what made me lose all my hair.
I don't, well, you still got some there on the side. You still got a little going there.
Well, yeah, but after they quit it after a while, that's all we get out.
When did you get out of the feed business?
When we was first indication something was going wrong, where we were going to have to produce something big different. We was furnishing feed for, there was 3 big chicken houses, and they hadn't been in for a couple of weeks. So we went out there to see why. Oh, he said, well, we're buying direct now. Well, then it wasn't too long till there was some of the, we'd worked hard to get people to put up a building with slats in it for pigs. Because if they wasn't going to be our customers, they're going to be somebody's.
Yeah.
And so there was some pretty good sized houses that we'd been furnishing feed for. Same story. Well, we're buying direct now. So I thought, well, it's time to get out. Because then the little people along the road, you know, that didn't have chickens anymore and stuff. And so I decided I better do something else. So I hauled gasoline fuel oil because I thought I could, and propane, I thought I could drag a hose around the rest of my life and fill up the tank. I done that, and I'd done that for about 2 years.
Was that in the 50s? Was that in the 50s?
That would have been in the early 60s.
Early 60s.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
long in there somewhere. Yeah. And then in 60, I believe it was 66 or 6, I went to work, me and I bought 40 acres up there next to the Micro Midget Club on Route 316, a big 2-story house that was there, it still is. And the racetrack was right there, but I belonged to the racing club. I didn't have a race car, but I belonged to them. My wife ran the concession stand, and I'd drive the push truck, I think. But then George Ream was the plant manager at Columbia Machine. He had 3 micro midgets with some Cumberland machine on it, and he had guys driving him, and I knew him real well. And one evening, one of the foremen come out to my house, and he said, "Bob, they're going to start a night shift on there." He said, "Why don't you go up there and put in your application?" I said, "Okay." So I went up there and talked to George, and he said, "Well, I could put you on as," well, he was outdoors, we wasn't in any of the office, he was just out there, and he said, "I could put you on tomorrow as a material handler." Oh, he said, "You don't want to start there." He said, "Come inside, we'll get you, let's see what you can do." So he threw this application down to me, radio drills and lathes and all kind of this equipment, and I looked at it and I said, "George, I don't even know what this machinery looks like, let alone how to run it." "Well," he said, "you've been a farmer all your life." He said, "I only can put a nut on a bolt. I'm going to make you an assembler." That was a job you had to bid up to.
Oh,
That's in case of who you know.
Ah, yeah. So that was good.
I started doing that.
Yeah. That was great for you
Yeah,
then.
yeah, I worked there until the plant, George had died, he'd retired and he'd died, and that place was just going downhill. And then too, their home office and a big plant was in Vancouver, Washington, and the guys that come down there from Vancouver, they said, "Well, you guys was always wanting same money they're paying in Vancouver." He said, "That's what we'll offer you this year." "Well, we were already making more than that." "Oh no, we didn't want to do that." But then finally they just closed the plant.
I see.
And I could have worked another year. There was guys there that was younger than me, but they were smart enough to know if you're in the union and they tell you go out of your department and go work over in that department, they made it get me a transfer. Well, I'd seen what was happening, and I didn't say anything about that till way later. I worked all one winter on the saw, sawing steel, but I never did ask for a transfer. And so when they laid me off, I said, "Well, I worked on the saw all one winter," and they said, "But there's nothing in your records." That was, well, yeah, George had died, and yeah, I didn't have nobody in there work anymore.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of an unfortunate thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got laid off, yeah.
Then what'd you do after that?
Well, come home and worried about a while, and finally Randy Hutton come over to see me. He was road commissioner and wanted to know if I'd come to work for him. And I said, "Yeah, got to work somewhere." But I was making a little over $10 an hour. Yeah, and that was big pay for Cumberland machine. And Randy would pay me $4 an hour.
Ah, that's what you call going backwards.
Yeah, he understood.
Yeah.
I've done that, worked that way for quite a while. Then when it finally got a chance to work for the county, made a little more money, and worked for the county for a while. And then to the time where I was getting there by 3 o'clock, I was starting to look at my watch, see how much it was. I was getting tired. So I finally quit that. I don't know what I did do after that.
How old were you when you finally retired from everything?
Huh?
How old were you when you retired?
From everything? 77 years old.
77. Okay.
Yeah, I come to, what was I don't know what I was working at. No, I worked at Walmart for a while.
Were you a greeter?
No, they'd seen I'd worked in the store, they put me on as a cashier. And so stuff would come down there, but I was always getting notices out of the office, just every 3 or 4 days that I wasn't fast enough. But, yeah, and we had meetings every Friday, and the manager of the store, he said, I wasn't putting it fast enough. And I said, "Then how come on Saturday night I'm working, I said, there's a woman comes and the rest of they can be 3 aisles over there that with the cashiers ain't doing anything. She'll wait till it gets big. And she told me I was the only one that ever packed her groceries and did throw a can of something on top of a loaf of bread and warm eggs. And I'd look down the aisle and I'd scoot stuff back and, on the belt. I'd get all the frozen stuff together and put it in there.
Right, well, that's the right way.
And
Yeah.
do it the right way.
Yeah, that's right.
But still, you had to get so much product through there. And I done that for a while. I quit. And I got the chance to work here. I was driving a big old blue bus. You remember the big old blue bus we used to have here? And drove it for a while. And then I was working for, I don't know why I quit here, but I went back to Walmart again, different Walmart, one down in Effingham. Yeah. And anyway, then I come back and I was working at Walmart and driving the bus too. And went once, 3 days without a day off. Cause Walmart didn't care if I had another job. Evidently they didn't here either. Cause
Okay, so you did it.
yeah,
You've always had a lot of energy, haven't you?
Huh?
You've had a lot of energy, haven't you?
Oh yeah.
Been a bit-
I'm bashful. Oh, I'm bashful, I tell you.
Oh, I really find that hard.
Yeah, bashful. I could have really done what I've done for being a politician.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. I want to hear, I know you say you were bashful, but I want to hear about how you started courting your wife here and you were a little bit scared.
Oh, well, okay.
Let's hear about that.
Well,
Rosemary.
but right down the road about, quarter of a mile from us, you had to about right, because we was only half a mile from the schoolhouse. But she rode to school, picked her up every day, she rode to school with us. And she was just like a sister I never had. If Sue didn't like a girl, I didn't go with them.
Okay.
Till Sue okayed it. But, yeah, and, but she worked at the post, or at the telephone office, right back when they punched the wires in, and
Yeah,
went, number
sure.
please, number please.
Yeah,
And
sure.
but she would find me blind dates, we'd never know, and maybe one of the other boys too would need some. We used to sit there and watch the girls come down the steps, and wonder, that pair of legs is ones I'm going to go out with. But,
Okay. All right.
but yeah, she'd always find me dates and things, but then I didn't run very wild. I didn't want to do some of the things some of the other boys were into, so I started going to the skating rink, and then we was over to Charleston skating rink one night, and then some girl sitting there, I don't know, we looked at each other, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, our eyes met, and that's about it, and I went on. Then later on, I've seen her at the skating rink at Mattoon, where I always went. And again, I mean, well, I just noticed her real well. Then I seen she was working in the restaurant part, and so I went in there and I chewed a lot of gum. I didn't smoke. Oh, that's a story I got to talk about too, my smoking. Hey, I have to back up here. During the war, you couldn't get cigarettes. And so the boys smoked, a lot of them. I didn't smoke, but I could. I could pick up a cigarette and smoke and blow the smoke out and inhale whatever. Never did bother me. I could quit just like that. But they wanted me to smoke when we was at the restaurant so I could get cigarettes. And I've talked to Gene Nichols. He worked for one store they had down at Windham or wherever it was he's from. We debated on whether them cigarettes was 12 or 15 cents. I thought they were 15 cents. He said they were 12. Okay, whatever.
Whatever, it's cheaper than today.
Yeah, cheaper. But anyway, they give me a cigarette. I go in there and I'd be smoking. Then I'd pinch it out and put it in my pocket and go back in the next day, have it in there. Then it'd be time for the cigarette truck to come around, you know. So I'd say, when would that cigarette come in? Oh, it'll be here Thursday or whatever. You get 2 packs. Well, the boys smoked. They'd give me twice what I paid for them. I'd take 3 cigarettes out of the other, put them in my pocket, and then I could get my money back on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That worked out good for you, didn't it?
Yeah, and that's, went all through high school, hamburgers a dime, Coke for a nickel. I'd have 2 hamburgers of Coke and it only cost a quarter.
Couldn't touch it today.
That won't hardly buy make a good tip.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did you mentioned in here about when times were so hard, and when was the years that they burned corn because the farmers couldn't get?
Well,
nothing was worth anything.
no, nothing just right. It wasn't worth anything.
Right.
They'd load up a load of corn, and the people was out on the flatland ground. They couldn't. They had to burn coal. They didn't have timber. We was fortunate because there's a sawmill there and on the place where we lived, and we could have all the wood we wanted to burn. And but they'd load up a load of corn and take it and sell it, and go buy coal, and they wouldn't have very much coal, and they might as well burn corn. It would have been cheaper than
buying the coal.
Than buying coal. Well, it went further than the coal did.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
so that's what they done.
So they actually burned corn.
Actually burned coal, ear corn.
Ear corn, and so they burned the cobs and the corn and everything.
Yeah, burned the ear corn. A lot of heat in it. There's oil in the corn.
Yeah,
Make
sure.
a lot of heat.
Canola oil, yeah, they
Yeah.
have that in there, yeah. Well, I've heard stories about it, but I never knew anybody that actually was witnessed.
Okay, you want to know how I met my wife? Well, I noticed she was working there at the restaurant, so I went in and bought this gum that I was chewing instead of cigarettes.
You were smart to do that.
And then, of course, she come back and handed it to me, and she said, would there be anything else? And I said, well, yeah, drop yourself in the sack and come go with me. She put her hands on her hip, looked up at me, because I was quite bad. She said, I just don't think I'd ever care to.
Whoa, what a put down.
So, yeah, but then I noticed she was talking to a girl. She was at work there every weekend, and noticed she was talking to a girl that I knew real well. So I went in and told her, I said, tell her who I am and tell her about me. And so she did. Well, that night after, well, she always got to skate after her shift was over. We started skating, and so I skated with her. Well, all I could do was just skate forward. She knew how to skate backwards and the two-step and all of that kind of stuff, but I didn't. So she let me take her home to her friend's house where she stayed on weekends. And after that, we just hit it right off. Yeah.
So you knew right away. And what was your wife's name here?
Sylvia Kepler.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Sylvia Marie Kepler.
Pretty name. Very
Yeah.
pretty name, yeah. And she looks to me like she was a pretty lady.
Well, she was, yeah.
She looks like a pretty lady.
Yeah.
And what kind of disposition did she have with you? 'Cause
She was a little bit red hair, and they're just fine, but they could snap just like that.
Well, actually, I think you two look pretty compatible here. You look pretty successful here. Is this a church picture?
I don't know. I thought that was maybe we'd all dressed up. I was trying to get it out of there, but it was a little unhandy. I think that was our 40th anniversary.
40th anniversary. Well, you guys look happy and successful, and she looks pretty sweet.
Oh yeah. Well,
She must have enjoyed your brand of humor.
we have some. But she's a really good woman. I've seen her one time, and we went down. She was going to buy some new clothes. We went to Walmart, and she was trying on clothes, and so I told her I was going to a different department. I come back, and she was pushing her cart, and I said, "Where's the clothes?" Oh, she said, I thought I didn't need them, so I put them back on the rack. I said, well, she said they was mine for a little while. That's the kind of woman she was. She was satisfied with, if it worked, that was good enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, she was.
Sounds like a very sweet lady. Did you raise all of your kids? Where did you raise all your children?
Well, now there's a difference. Do you raise them or do you let them grow up?
Well, okay, Bob, how did you handle this and where did you handle it?
Yeah, she's the mother of all the children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, she's pretty good. A good mother.
Mm-hmm. Did they graduate in Coles County or Cumberland or?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Both places.
Both
Yeah.
places. Okay.
And when we lived up there before I moved down here in 70, well, we stayed in Cumberland County. The last day of school at Charleston, when school was out, we had everything ready. That was our first night and that was in 74 probably. I sold up 35 acres I had up there. I sold 5 acres that I had up there on the next to the racetrack for $3,000, and I gave it for the whole 40. And then the 35 acres I had, I sold it, and I sneaked off down here, and I knew there was some for sale. But first, up there in Cumberland County, you couldn't hardly nail a barn door back on unless you had a permit if you lived within so close to the interstate, the road there. But down here, and I went over to the courthouse and talked to the supervisor of assessments. He said, "Now let me get this straight." He said, "You bought that?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, what are you doing in here?" I said, "Well, I want to know what the restrictions are on building." He said, "It's yours. If you want to build on it, you build on it."
Okay.
And I said, "I'm moving to this county, I'll tell you."
Right now, I'm packing my bags.
Yeah,
Huh?
so we did. We put up a little house and
Yeah.
we lived there. And 2 youngest kids graduated from college. And my youngest son, he wouldn't play football down here the first time before we first moved because he's afraid he hurt somebody. And he was big and he was terrible strong.
This is the
And
one you
he
called
didn't
your
want to hurt
giant.
anybody.
Okay, yeah.
But then he found out that they had all that and guards and stuff on them and padding, he could knock them a roll.
Well, okay. Now, were you and your wife active in any organizations or churches or anything?
Yes, she dealt with the Girl Scouts some, and I know my boy was 2 or 3. One time now the older boys was in 4-H up there, and I don't know, Diana might have been too, I don't remember. But she was active that way. We were both active at church.
What church did you attend?
Christian church, no, Methodist church in Lawson. And then we moved down here and went to Methodist church in Greenwich for a long. And my wife sang in the choir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That church has been around a long time. I'm very familiar with that church. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, it's been, and I've enjoyed. I tell you, get down here and have to get to know people. Hey, they're just a nice bunch of folks. I tell you this, they're just real good people.
Well, that's because you are, and then people kind of interact with how you act, and they interact.
And I
that
tell
way.
you, I can't get over, since I've got so old, so many people hold doors open for me, bring me my cane and stuff when I go to Bible study. They just kill me with kindness.
It's kind of nice. That's a little byproduct of being an older person, isn't it?
Yeah. I've seen people, I'd buy gas up here at the convenience store, and then somebody see me hang the hose up and start walking with a cane up towards there. They'd be standing there, hold the door open. I always say, "Did you bring a flashlight?" And they'd look at it and I said, "Well, so as I'm getting there, you might be dark time to get there."
Well, tell me something, Bob. If there was anything that you'd like to comment on about what you've seen through the years and where we are today in this world, what would you like to see like it used to be, and what would you like to change about today? Because there's a lot of good memories you've shared about how things used to be.
I don't really know. A preacher asked me like that. I said, it's some of the respect between the children and their parents anymore. It's, when we were little, no meant no and stuff, and you didn't argue, you didn't whine around about it and stuff, but, yeah, but it's, some of the things I see, even on television, how the kids act towards, well, of course, that's on a movie or something too, but how they act towards their parents, and I just don't think they've got the respect for their folks that the folks deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to upset the folks, you know.
I think that's true. I think
Yeah.
we see it kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
Respect is always a nice thing to
Yeah.
have.
Well, it could be too that we don't, when Christmas time comes, we don't have Christmas like we used to. They don't know what Christmas is about. They think it means, oh, I get to open a big present and stuff like that. They don't really understand the real reason for Christmas.
The values.
The Bible, yeah.
You need to have.
I learned how to say it without sounding like I was trying to preach.
Yeah, well, that's true. No, they need to have what
Yeah.
the real meaning and the values
Yeah.
are. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that sums it up pretty good, Bob.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for doing this. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you. You're just, how about a good handshake there? You've been a good guy to talk to.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you a lot. You've really shared a lot of good memories for our People, Places, and Things series here. And I think your family's going to enjoy it. And other people will enjoy it for years and years to come.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful. We want to say goodbye for now, folks. Thank you
Okay.
very much.